This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Deanna Read. And we're going to be talking about connecting strategy, AI, and human-centric marketing. Welcome to the Fam Electric Ghost podcast. How you doing tonight?
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. Excited.
Thank you. And a couple of questions we ask of any guest before we get into the heart of your story is what motivates you and why do you do what you do?
Oh, really good question. What motivates me, I think, is I'm always kind of in competition with myself. So I just always want to improve. I always want to learn more. And then I want to be able to kind of share that knowledge. I want to see smaller businesses that maybe don't have the resources that the bigger businesses have. I want to be able to provide them kind of some of my knowledge, some of my expertise to help them compete. And then what motivates me, honestly, it's kind of a cliche answer, but definitely my kids. I want to be the role model that they can look up to and be like, you know what, I want to achieve kind of that level.
That's interesting. So, you're a CMO for Virtual Coworker. You're a marketing consultant, digital marketer for B2B, B2B marketing. So, how did you get into that? Was that what you wanted to do? Is there like when you were in college? Or did you like find your way into this business?
Well, I didn't really take the traditional route. When I graduated high school, I was offered a purchasing assistant position, and I thought I had everything made. So I didn't go to college right away. I just thought, okay, it's great. I've already got this great job, and so I worked as a purchasing assistant. Then kind of life happens. I got married, had kids, ended up just kind of darting around administrative jobs. And I was working at a company where my friend was the vice president of marketing. And I happened to go into her office and was sitting there talking with her and kind of watching what she was doing. And it was everything that I do at home, just kind of playing on my own. And I was completely shocked that you could get paid to do this. I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I want. Like, what is your title? Like, tell me more. And from there, I got into marketing. I was really lucky. One of the first marketing jobs I had was Volvo Construction Equipment and Services. They took a chance on me, let me kind of come in as a fresh marketing person and learned a lot. It was great because it was a large corporation, but kind of a small family-owned business that had been purchased. So I still had some of that small family feel, but also the whole corporate. So I learned a lot about marketing, brand awareness, and everything else there. And then when the pandemic hit, it was like, you know what? Now is a great time to go and finally get the degree in it. So I got the bachelor's degree in it in digital marketing and realized that there was still so much to learn. So I went back, got my master's degree in digital marketing. And when I finished that, it was like, well, I've already kind of gone most of the way. Why not finalize it and go all the way? So now I'm going for my doctorate in business administration with a strategic marketing concentration.
So you're going heavy on the higher education, but it's good.
Yeah. Again, because I want to be able to turn around and share that knowledge as well. So,
well, yeah, because you're trying to help small businesses level up. So you want to be as much of an SME as possible with like subject matter expert. But yeah, my hat is like I wear a couple of hats. I'm in the business system analysis is my day job, and I'm a podcaster. I'm a musician, producer. So I have my entrepreneur hat on and my business hat on and my IT hat. So we can get into the AI discussion pretty good because I got some certifications in AI. But
nice.
Yeah, the idea of one of the things I wanted to get into, like they had brought, this navigating ethical dilemma, trust, privacy, and AI. Now, being an artist, there's a lot of a lot of buzz in the artist industry about AI. And there, my daughter's a graphic artist. I'm a musician, and we are all concerned about like our rights for our compositions and our work. Because the way AI learns is it learns based on content. So if you put stuff on Instagram or Google, you'll notice that they went and said, "Oh, they're going to use all your posts to train their AI."
Right.
So like if you were an artist and you were putting your post up, they're using it. Yeah. And you kind of to use their platform, they're using it. So you might not actually have authorized them, but you did.
Right. The unfortunate part about that is, in a way, you've already pre-authorized anything else to happen with it. The minute you post anything on social media, you lose ownership of it. I mean, you have some ownership, but you're also telling Instagram or Facebook or whatever social media, if you look at their privacy notice and all of their terms and conditions, you're giving them the ability to use it however they want. So, in a way, you've already kind of given up some of the ownership. Now, I completely understand the concern about AI learning off of our creative work. It's a very valid concern, and that's where it really brings up the issue that we do need to have some kind of oversight, some kind of
Yeah, kind of like
regulation.
the European Union, because the European Union is a lot more ahead of the curve
Mhm.
on this type of stuff, and they typically don't allow corporations to just blanket take people's work without giving them an opt out.
Exactly.
And that's
Exactly.
where Americans have kind of fallen down, where we haven't gone to our representatives and really pushed the way European, consumers have pushed and said, I want an option to opt out. I
Right.
want an option to say you can't just use it without giving me permission or giving me, commission. Um,
Exactly.
which is, I think, is like if you're an artist, the way the world is like people take your work and you get like less than pennies for it. The way things work today.
It
And so,
really is. Yeah.
yeah, and so the idea that the people go and turn something into a algorithm or what the concern we have as artists, and I'll just point out before we get too deep in it, is if
Mhm.
the tech bros take their algorithms and they make money off of your content and don't pay you any commission, but they
Right.
make money off of their stuff. So it's an issue of fairness.
Mhm.
And that's where the European Union, they kind of point out is like, yeah, why can't we get that kind of fairness?
Well, and at the same time, it's also, as an artist, you work very hard to curate your voice, your art, to make it specific and general to you. And not general, specific and unique to you. And
Yeah,
so when AI then begins training, I mean, you can go into most of the AI image generation things right now, and you can say, um, in the style of Van Gogh, in the style of Thomas Kincaid, and whatever, and it'll produce something like that. And so that specialty that you've curated suddenly becomes diluted because
yeah.
now somebody else
All the copyright
can
law,
create that
all
style.
yeah,
Yeah,
all the copyright law gets kind of supplanted by the tech. And then
right.
there's the ethical concern is like the tech went and just pushed down a lot of copyright. Now we still have in music, we own masters, we have legal contracts. So if my song still is my song. Right. So
Right.
the way the songs work is like if you have you licensed it and you're a part of BMI or ASCAP or any of them, you get paid. You'll get copyright like flags if people use your stuff, and we have a way of doing it, and that's where a lot of people want to say want all artists to have the same things that musicians have.
Right.
We think that in this AI world, we everybody needs to have the same kind of rights, digital rights management.
Well,
But
and you want to
yeah,
be able to fight it without it being, you as an individual versus this large corporation and their massive lawyer or
yeah,
legal
you
team.
want your part of your pro organization like ASCAP or BMI kind of help fight it out for you. And
Exactly.
they're in your publisher. Like if you're with a publisher, they kind of do it for you. It's
Mhm.
like if you're a songwriter and you publish your stuff and you register it, your publisher tends to go around looking to see if people are violating it, and they report and they track your commissions, they get your royalties. That's what people want. They want to know that it's like fair.
Right.
So
Right. You don't want to have spent all this time creating your your whole art, your passion, your whole everything that you've put out into the world just to have somebody else kind of steal it from you. And
yeah,
then
and
you have
not
to
really
work hard.
realize that you signed it away because you have a Google account, because you have an
Exactly.
Instagram account. Because a lot of people don't read that stuff.
Nobody
Right?
does.
Nobody
Really.
reads it, so they didn't even know that they signed it away.
And then the funny thing is, and it's I've seen where people will post like on Facebook or Instagram, like the little text image saying that, oh, I do not authorize, Instagram to review my account or anything else. The problem with that is just by posting that, you've already
You already
authorized.
did it. Yeah, that's
You're
what they don't
already
get. Like,
within
it
their,
doesn't
yeah,
matter. Yeah, you kind
exactly.
of have to like wait. Like, if you really don't want them to have it, you can't put it there. You got to
Exactly.
put it on your own network, right?
Host
So you have to
host your
pay
own
for
site,
your own
put
site and put it there.
put it there, and then just do little promotion things to send people to your site.
So
Um,
I guess that's the strategy we'll start kind of shifting over to. Like, in terms of this idea of navigating privacy, is ownership of your own distribution channel, like, is that the primary solution to this issue?
um, at the moment, I think so. Again, any other, and actually, as I say that, I think, well, if you're creating a website, though, you're going to want to have it be searchable, which means then you're giving Google access to have its bots search your thing. And so Google's still going to see your content. Um,
Mhm. So they still
it's
get a weight in, even if you own a site to get it on Google, to get on a ranking, get your
right,
SEO, you're still potentially doing that unless you've gone and, like, patented and officially copyrighted things, right? Is
exactly.
the copyright law supersede any of their agreements? I know you're not a lawyer, but I'm
Yeah.
wondering.
I probably wouldn't even want to theorize just because I am not a lawyer. I wouldn't want to lead anybody astray.
Yeah.
Um, I just think there is definitely a need for some kind of oversight. And I know I saw a few months ago somebody in one of the European companies is trying to kind of launch like a consortium
Mhm.
consortium. I can't remember how you say the word, but kind of like an oversight committee that is kind of looking into AI and how do we protect the privacy of users and how do we protect the privacies and the copyrights of all of the information that it's taking to make
Yeah.
sure that it's not violating anybody in any way.
'Cause I
Um,
know I was reading a blog on LinkedIn by this privacy lawyer who's, like, a big advocate for, like, the EU level privacy or
mhm,
even more than that, and he's always pointing out where, like, when you take AI certifications, I've got, like, Google certifications and ChatGPT and Gemini certifications, they kinda gloss over and tell you that they care about artist rights. But when you look at their
yes.
legal documents, and I was reading this privacy blog post by this lawyer, and he kinda said, "Well, that's not really the truth." Because, like, if you look at what they've done with their agreements, like we've talked about, they're basically saying they have a right to use it.
Right. Again, if the information's made available, why wouldn't they?
Yeah, yeah, so it's public information, and now you made it available, and now they're gonna use it, and to use their system, you said they could, so then if you try to restrict it, then yeah, this kinda goes back to, like, we need a digital bill of rights for
Correct.
artists, and so that's, like, the ethical dilemma is, like, we need the law to suddenly to start looking at this as being important.
And and to be honest, it also goes on to the people that are utilizing ChatGPT or any of the AI tools to be ethical in their use of it as well.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
you know, you want to make sure that if you are doing something in the style of, you're not just taking it as it's created. You're doing something to make it unique, to make it
alter it.
yours, and
Yeah.
to not just do carbon copies of things.
Well, that's the thing is, like, prompt engineering is a tactic, right? But if
Hmm.
you prompt engineer saying you wanna make it look like something that Warhol did, right?
Right.
And you're being very specific, you want it to be Warhol, and then you don't cite that it's Warhol.
Right.
Well, that's kinda like when I was in college, that's called, like, plagiarism, like, you don't cite it, right?
Exactly.
So it's like,
Exactly.
that's maybe there's not a rule, but there's ethical, like, maybe you should have the same ethics that when you were writing your term paper,
Hmm.
that should be the
Exactly.
same thing. So maybe we try to teach our young people in college, we teach the people in high school the ethical way to do chat prompts or prompt engineering, which I don't know if there's anybody thinking about that because I don't know if they're even teaching that.
I mean, I'm not aware of it at the moment. Again, in a lot of ways, AI is still the wild, wild west.
It's a total
It's
Wild West. Yeah.
it's developing so rapidly, and I think it's one of those things we need to give it time to kind of settle in and have everybody kind of figure out their place and figure out how do we best manage it. But in the meantime, it's really on users to be as ethical as possible, and on creators to be as cautious as possible to protect their um, intellectual property.
Yeah, you gotta be real careful because like even in music, people will take people's voices, and AI can actually take somebody's voice and then reuse it and make it sing something they never sent,
Yeah.
which a lot of people have already got in trouble for that, and people have
Hmm.
already been suing people on that. And then, actors have already said, like, I don't want it used in my image without it. And the actors actually got their union to say, no, you can't do it. Right.
Exactly.
So their union actually came and said, no, you can't do that.
So
So yeah, there's certain level as artists that we've started to take the hold of it.
there's actually a tool out there. I won't name names, but it's you can kind of go in and say, I want to write a song about this, and I want it in this style, and it'll create everything, the music, the lyrics,
Yeah,
it'll have somebody singing it.
and we're aware
But
of
what
it.
what I do like about it is I've actually gone in there and tried to say, like, I want it to sound like this type of person's music, and it won't accept the prompt. It
Well, that's
won't let
cool.
me list any like celebrity names, any bands. Um, it has to be very, very general, and even to the point where I told it I was trying to do like a, a farewell song to a colleague that was leaving the company, and I
Mhm.
said, we want it to say goodbye to this person's name, and it wouldn't write the song with that name.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I do like this, and so that they're capable of building the tools like this. I've
Well,
had
yeah, you
other
can
ones.
build, like, all kinds of rules.
Yeah,
It depends on but if it's the Wild West, people don't like rules.
exactly.
So it's like where regs come in and people say, "I wanna be unregulated." Well, when you're unregulated, then you have the problem where you might be plagiarizing, or you might
Ex-
be copyright violations, or you're like image violations, or like somebody's secret sauce is their voice. So
mhm,
I'm sure if you're a big person like a Taylor Swift, she wouldn't want somebody just using her voice and writing a song and making her say things that she never said.
exactly.
People
Exactly.
aren't gonna appreciate that.
Right. And um it's extremely, yeah, it's just there's a lot of caution necessary. But not caution is necessary, but at the same time, I don't feel like AI is bad. I think it's a
No,
good
it's a
thing.
tool. I mean, I use it every day. I mean, I'm in IT. I've been, like I said, I've been certified in certain things,
Mhm,
and I'm in business, and we use it for prompt engineering to make things more efficient, workflow optimization,
mhm,
and just ways to like build BRD templates for business requirement definition templates. There's all kinds of things you can use to make things faster and more efficient. But a lot of times, it's like the critical thinking is still the human. Like,
exactly.
yeah, like, as a musician, I don't use AI to write my song. I use AI to help produce my song. So it
Ex
might change some of my post processing. So that then examples like I want to make my sound for this song have a Fleetwood Mac rumors feel. So I want it to EQ my voice and my bass guitars and stuff like it was done on Fleetwood Mac, and it'll go and look for that and find it. Now I could go find those actual machines to do that, but that costs a lot of money. So to
Right.
have the digital recreation through AI to make something digitally feel like you're running through some analog thing from 1974, that's worthwhile for a lot of people because it
Definitely.
gives them access to something they never had, right? Some
Def
that it costs less money. So you see where the tool is very efficient. So it allows you to ramp up to something you could have never done because you couldn't
exactly.
afford it to go to Sound City and be on a Neve board that costs $500,000. Well, most artists can't get on that board, but if you can get something to approximate it, that gives you like a level up. So
Right.
that's kind of like the you to me is you use it as a tool to level up, but not to like write your stuff. Like maybe not 90% of writing your thing is probably not the thing you should do.
Well, and please don't ever I've seen far too often where somebody will put in a prompt and they'll just take the first thing that's presented to them.
Yeah,
And
you have to kinda refine it.
you do. It's definitely a process. There is no, just enter and then copy and paste. It's that's
Well, they're
not.
hallucinations. The things can come
Oh,
back and give you bad information because
yes.
like, there's a whole concept of, like, it can actually go and do something for, like, data a year it doesn't have, right?
Yes,
So if it doesn't have that year and then it actually gives you an answer, it would be, like, in actuarial science or accounting, you could get really bad numbers, and it will actually give you numbers, and if you don't check it, it's like those numbers aren't right at all.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, like
There's a really interesting book that I read, and it's all about kind of the creation of ChatGPT. And one of the things that I learned is that its whole purpose is to make you happy. It wants to provide things to you. And so that's where the hallucinations come from, is if it doesn't have access to the information that it knows you want,
kinda
it
makes
will
it up.
create it to
Yeah.
make you happy. And
So it
so,
gives you an answer, and then you normally you think you actually got a legitimate answer,
right. And
which is
most of the
typically
time,
a computer gives you, like, it's X or Y or 0 or 1, but then it actually gave you something that's kinda, like, different than that.
right. Well, and most of the time when it errors, it's going to err on the side of what it thinks is going to make you happy. And
Yeah, so
so
it gives you the what you
you
want.
yeah, human nature, you're gonna look at it and be like, "Oh, I increased our visibility by like 70%. This is awesome." And it may not be that at all. That's just ChatGPT trying to fulfill the request that you've given it in a way that's gonna make you happy when it doesn't have all the information. And so
Well,
it's
that's why you
really.
still have to quality check everything, like, in IT, like, we have a whole role, QA,
uh,
and the problem is, like, some people are thinking, "Well, I can skip QA with and just use AI." It's like, "No, no, no." It's like and everybody always wants to skip
mhm.
QA. That's the heart of the problem in IT is like, because QA will say it takes 5 weeks to test this, and that's they'll give us 2. And it's like, well, then you wonder why we garbage in, garbage out. Like, I'm saying
Exactly.
it's the same thing it was in 1965 as it is now. Garbage
Mhm.
in, garbage out. Like, if you if
Exactly.
you don't if you give it bad data and you don't give me enough time to check it, then we're gonna have to fix it on the back end. That's why
Ex
you see stuff being changed all the time on your phone. Why you
Yep.
get all these updates? Because they didn't give the QA enough time to check it, so we gotta keep on updating it all the time.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that's the reality. So it's like what we put out there is like, it is what we know. It's like we don't know what we don't know. The
Right.
next day we find out, we fix it.
Right.
And we're sometimes we're upfront about it, sometimes we're not.
Exactly. Well,
Like
and
with this
you wanna fix it with the least amount of, damage possible.
damage, yeah. I mean, I don't know, people read the updates they get from like the systems. It'll tell you, and sometimes it cryptically tells you, and if you don't really know, it's like, well, yeah, we kind of told you.
Yeah,
Did you
exactly.
really don't get what we told you?
Wait, this was an issue? Wait, what?
We exposed all your information. We're sorry.
We kinda closed this open gate to your phone.
Yeah, there's an open gate. Maybe you shouldn't use your text because, like, if you send information, some hacker can see it.
Fully off the did you I got something on an app today saying something about, the FBI, like, saying to be
Yeah,
you
it's
are
true. Like, you really should be using, like, encrypted like, people use their text, and this is kinda something I learned yesterday as well. Somehow some hackers, international hackers, have been able to get into like really deep into like Android and Apple, and on your messaging, you really shouldn't be sending like your social security number, like checks, copies of checks, copies of your driver's license. And sometimes people do that
wow.
without thinking it's secure. Because oh,
Yeah.
it's my iPhone. No, they can get into it. They can get into the feed and they can steal it. And so they're telling you should use encrypted apps if you're going to send anything that's like PHI or
Mhm.
HIPAA type stuff that you really don't want going around. And a lot of people don't know that. They say, "What's PHI?" Protected, health information or like your social security number, all kinds of stuff. Like you don't really want that stuff going out unencrypted. And when people go, "How do I encrypt?" They're like, "That's a whole nother level." But use an encrypted app. I won't tell you which one, but use it.
It's crazy. I mean, it's like Hollywood level. You see it in the movies, but you just don't
You're
always
in the Wild
think to
West, like you
apply it.
said.
Yeah,
The AI is giving hackers an advantage too. Like
right,
so, like that we're in era where people have access to supercomputer power, and you
right,
can be nefarious or you can be great. You can be help humanity, or you
right,
can not help humanity. And so it depends on like what you're. If you're a criminal, you're going to use it for criminal purposes. So
right.
you just have to be aware of what's out there. Their pitfalls. And so you do have to be smart about like protecting your data. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. But like you like to level up companies like you say with tools. Like AI is a really good tool for
Hmm.
leveling somebody up to be able to play with the big boys, with the big dogs out there. You could suddenly do stuff. It's like a 3D printer. Like you can
Yeah,
have a small entrepreneur that can suddenly build like all kinds of stuff that CNC machines were doing.
right.
You can level up and you can be a small shop doing something that would have took 50 people. You're doing it with 3 people.
Well, and that's where I try to kind of walk the fine line of helping people to understand that there are things that you need to be cautious of when it comes to AI, but you also shouldn't be afraid to use it and to try to utilize it. Um, with AI, there's so many ways that it can really help a very small team. Where I work, we have a small team. And I've seen my social media manager, she'll turn around and she'll go and use AI to kind of help her create a content calendar. And AI is going to remember what we did long after she remembers it. And so it
Yeah.
can kind of help her steer it. She's the driver, but it's going to help her and it's going to save time and it's going to save a lot of effort on her part. So there's a lot of ways that it can really benefit. You just, again, have to be cautious as to how you're using it and be ethical in your use and look for the tools that are going to be the most beneficial to you. I've noticed too, there's a lot of AI tools out there. They like to just kind of throw everything in there.
Well,
And
it's like the new it's like I don't know, it's like the sexy thing to do. Like people just put things out there, and it's like, is it really a good user story? Is it a good business case? Because now it's just used for marketing. Like AI is like everything, right?
right.
And it's like software. you know. So some people was like, well, I got this new AI device. It's like, well, anything could have AI on it if it's
Right.
so you don't have to physically have new hardware to run it. But they're tricking
Exactly.
people.
Right. Right. It's the buzzword right now. That's all marketing. That's what we do. We
Yeah,
find like
yeah.
the new thing and we make it super attractive to everybody and everything is, but it has AI. It's AI enhanced so that you're going to want to, oh, it has AI. Oh, cool. I want to check that out. It's probably the same software as before, but you know, and that's the thing too is AI isn't really all that new. It's
It's
a
been
new,
around. Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
a
I
new,
mean, there's different levels of your Google search. We're using a certain level of it. Before that, there was in the 60s and the 50s, and people were working on it. You can track the history on it. But the big thing now is just the capacity for it to actually do the natural language. Like as a business analyst, I can get it to build like a template for a business document or a
right.
use case template and actually have a repeatable template. Then I could actually connect it to my email, and then I could connect it to my office tools,
Hmm.
and then connect it to a SQL database, and then run some Python and have it run automation and have it go
Exactly.
create SE. So you can get it to do a bunch of things that maybe 5 or 6 people were doing.
Hmm.
Now you could build these automated paths. It could be creating like an email campaign. It could be running your schedule for your work schedule, asking, answering questions as a chatbot, and then seeing opportunities and sending you leads into your sales force. It can do
Hmm.
a lot of stuff.
One
There's
of
a
the
lot.
One of the greatest tricks that I learned kind of recently, I was on an AI panel with some of the alumni from the school that I went to, and somebody talked about what she does is for her social media marketing, she'll input um, her company's profile and she'll tell the AI tool, okay, look at this um, profile, look at all of our posts for like the last year, then look at the ones that are getting the most engagement and tell me
Mhm.
what you see that's kind of
On the
correlating
pattern,
across
the
and yeah,
data
the
and
pattern.
data analytics. Is that you're
Yeah,
getting data analytics and telling you, like, what to read out of it. Like, what are the
exactly.
highlights?
Right, which as a marketer saves us so much time, and to be honest, when you're scrolling through your social media to look at all that stuff, you can end up getting distracted, and it's like, "Oh,
Well,
so
that's
and
where
so
that
posted about
natural
this?"
language, like, machine learning is really powerful, where it
Mhm,
can actually go and look at your posts and see commonalities.
exactly.
It could see patterns in your traffic, see patterns with your customers that, like, before you can throw it into your Power BI or your Tableau, it
Mhm,
can pick it up faster than you getting somebody to manually build it.
exactly.
What you wanna do, like, old world is like you gotta get a data analytics guy to manually try to figure it out.
Mhm,
Now you can get these algorithms and run, they got Python stuff that's already built to run. They got people who built, like, algorithms, like AI, like, packages that are already built to actually scan Google,
right,
scan internet, scan, like, a specific thing, and actually, it's like a package that's already designed to do something. You can ta tie these packages and have them connect to other packages, and it's like modular design. Which
but
is what we
it's
love, it's like it's
yeah,
plug and play. I can plug this thing and connect to that thing. It's like that's why Amazon got so big with AWS, is 'cause that's what they do,
yeah,
you know?
exactly.
But the whole AI world is like that too. You connect it with all this stuff. I get real technical, but it ends up being like this plug and play kind of 5th generation programmer level. So
Mhm,
somebody who's not a programmer can actually tell you can get into some of this stuff and actually get it to do a workflow without
exactly.
being a programmer, which I
Right,
think that's the power. And maybe the people who don't understand what we're saying, like, if you don't have to have a programmer actually code it, and you can actually get a business person to say, like, "What is that I want to logically do?" You could actually start to do that. I mean, a programmer is gonna optimize it, that's a fact, they'll make it better, but you
right,
could start to do it yourself.
exactly, and without all of the additional expensive tools and software that you would use.
Yeah, I mean, I always like I said, a programmer can optimize it probably at a higher level than the initial thing you try to do,
Right.
but the fact that you could try to do and get something that actually could be valuable, that's like the game changer in the world we're in now.
And bringing that back to small businesses that are limited on resources, limited on, human resources as well. That's where this is optimal for them. This is something that they can do to get that insight without having to invest in a developer.
Yeah,
Y
or you try to get some big, like, 5 consulting company, like the big 5 to come in and they want the big bucks to give
Exactly.
you the insight. But now
Ex
you could get the insight, and it's not the big bucks.
Right, right. And it's
And it's
probably not a long-term contract either.
yeah, because then you gotta get locked into, like, whatever their world is, and they're gonna upsell you on all kinds of stuff, and you can stay more independent. So, it's kinda very Wild West again, where now I can take ownership and I can do it yourself.
Right.
And like in the old days, like people would build, even not, it's not even old days. People still like to build their own machine, their own computer. There are some
Mhm.
people that will customize custom built gaming machines, especially gamers.
Right.
It's like a mountain biker. I will go and build my mountain bike from the frame and buy components from all over the place. And it's not just with like some like Cannondale. I actually bought a frame and then I bought pieces of things from everywhere else to make it
Wow.
mine. And so that's kind of like the way this world is with the IT. You can grab all these packages and tools from these little, you get some company that sells you something to translate your meetings into insights and give you meeting minutes. And
Yes.
actually, and you could use the big guys or you could use the smaller guy because there's all kinds of smaller apps doing the same thing and they might have a little, you know, edge versus
Right.
what the big guys are doing.
Exactly. And especially because a lot of times the big guys have their established customer base that they're catering to. Whereas the little guys, they're just starting out, they're trying to build that base. And so they're oftentimes willing to take a few more risks. Oh, well, let's, if you want this, we can add that to it. We'll figure out how to build that in. I actually had somebody reach out to me to look at a tool that they were creating, and they've already sold it to several customers. And he was saying, is this something that you guys think you could use? And I said, well, we could, but there's just this aspect that probably wouldn't work for us. We'd probably need it more like this. And we ended the call with him like, I'm going back to my developer and I'm going to see if we can build this in, because they're a new company. They're trying to
they're
get
willing to
client
do it.
base.
It's like small business. A small business is willing to kind of right size it and listen to the customer and
Mhm.
actually not do what the big guys do. Is like we sell a system and we get the big, insurance companies I work with, like they all use these like policy administration systems and they get locked in by these big companies that build these. And the big dogs control what the system can do. So if
Exactly.
you're a small mid-range insurance company, you want it to do X, and well, the big guy doesn't want to do X. So you're
Yeah.
gonna have to build that yourself. Or you go find people now that are making, blockchain, AI enabled apps that can do things faster than these other guys that take 2 years to build something.
Yeah.
Now you get companies that can do something in 3 months, 6 months, and you're like, what? You can actually get that to me in 3 months, 6 months versus that's a 2 year cycle. That's
Yep.
like the big game changers happening now. It's like you
Oh,
got
yeah.
mid-sized insurance companies saying, I don't have to wait 2 years
Mhm.
for my product development.
And that's the thing, is technology has just made it where everything moves so much faster now. So
Yeah.
much
There's a
to
lot of opportunity because if you can get with these smaller companies, yeah, I actually like I used to work with bigger companies. And now I'm actually with more of a smaller company
Mhm.
because I found it's like more agile,
Yep.
more willing to like listen to me, and actually, if you're a worker and you've been in this industry like 30 years, it's like if you have people that actually listen to your ideas and then let you do it versus like putting it, and then the boardroom says no, no, no. Okay, like I guess you guys are just no people.
Well, and as a human-centric marketer, that's like what I absolutely love. Those smaller companies, they can really cater to their client or their target audience. Not saying that the big ones can't, but the big ones are slower. It's harder to move, it's harder to navigate because they have such a wide audience and customer base that they're trying to appease and
Yeah,
try
a lot of
to serve.
times they're trying to appease the big number,
Yeah,
where
exactly.
like you have other people might be better at the niche market.
Hmm.
So, sometimes in those niche markets, there's a lot of opportunity to do innovation.
Right.
Yeah, because you can like customize stuff, and then I just like being a creative person. Like if I like to throw the kind of oddball idea
Hmm.
that's like, oh well, the other person, well, that's not going to work with this kind of generic audience that we want people that like they want to play it safe.
Right.
Where if you get somebody that's more willing to be on the kind of cutting edge, because it's like, well, that's our secret sauce. Is
Right.
like we think different. It's not the same as this. It's not cookie cutter. It's not just a clone of this, clone of the same thing. So,
It's differentiation, differentiation, differentiation.
like, why do you go to a local donut shop versus the big chain? Because each individual small donut shop has a donut that no other donut shop has.
Exactly.
And now the big one, you get the same thing everywhere you go, and you have the security and knowing like this is going to taste the same in Nevada as it tastes in Boston as it tastes in New York. But
Right.
sometimes I don't want that. I want the thing to taste different, right? And so if you get the customer says, I don't want, I want the food truck.
Right. You want the local flavor.
Yeah, I want that. Which is like, well, that's not, I can't reproduce that everywhere. Like, well, I don't want it reproduced everywhere. So what do you find the kind of micro level stuff, like micro strategies, or
um,
they're not as like they're not trying to be like everything to everybody.
it's the larger companies have greater resource to bring in the tools where they can really personalize, but to be able to kind of change course, bring in new policies, new products, new services, and everything else like that. That's going to be your smaller businesses. They're able to be much more agile like that. And they're more willing to take a chance and take a risk because
Mhm.
it's not that they have less to lose, because a lot of times they have everything to lose. Small business, it's also make or break with a lot of
Yeah,
them.
yeah, 'cause they do that,
Uh,
it might be the end. They get
right,
like
right,
like Atari, they made a bad decision on
right.
a long time ago with ET. They bet the farm on ET, like, they made this game and nobody liked it, and then they buried it in the desert.
Oh,
That's an old
RIP.
IT story.
There was a sec I grew up in it, like, I remember Atari when I was little.
Yeah.
Like, that
Yeah, ET kinda killed them. They
yeah.
bet the farm on ET and then they couldn't sell it.
Ah,
There's
crazy.
more yeah, it's like, oh, it's like, that's such a sad thing. I love my 2600, but
But, yeah, and look, here all these years later, we still talk about Atari.
yeah, but it had an impact. It was,
Mhm.
but then the big guys like the Sonys and the Nintendos came in and the Microsofts came in and they kinda own it.
Yeah.
Like, in the early days, you had ColecoVision, you had Intellivision, you had, like, a lot of companies at the beginning of the home video game. There was a lot of different companies. I had probably each one of them. I was, like, really a kid that was, like, a nerd. I was like, "Oh, a ColecoVision, Intellivision." It's like, I like the fact that it's different,
Right.
but then the people started to just, like, whittle it down. But I think even now today, people like to go and have, like, custom games that are made by gamers, on these little sites. People build, like, their own games.
Oh, like yeah,
It's a big thing in out on the net now.
yeah. There's a lot of, like, the YouTubers are creating their own games now
Yeah,
too.
they create their own stuff, and it's like and the kids, like, oh, like, they're more into it's like the underground, like underground music, and people go to the record store, find this band that's only in Seattle on SST. It's like there's this real small label or Sub Pop, kinda where Nirvana came from, but the idea it's like, yeah, some people are looking for the new markets. They're in kinda like underground emerging college radio type of thing, you know what I mean?
Right.
I think everybody's always looking for that. It's like, "Ah, you know what's popular?
Right.
I wanna find that food truck type thing."
People look for something that's different and that also strokes what they enjoy. Um,
Mhm,
and if you can get I mean, that's why you see all the brand collabs, because you can take 2 things that somebody likes and bring them together, and it just makes it so
yeah,
much better. So, you've got
yeah,
your YouTubers that already have these built-in audiences. You know if they're doing YouTube, they're probably gonna be gamers as well. You bring those together, and it's just magic. It's money.
yeah, you try to get the cross collaboration,
Mhm.
it's kinda like you bring in a food company with a beverage company, with a gamer, you're with a software company, it's got a game, and then to kinda cross collaborating, kind of throw the thing into the game. You
One
you
of
you see little, like, ads inside of the games.
yeah.
It
One
looks like
of the
it's a new
things
opportunity.
one of the weirdest collabs that I've ever seen, and yet wildly successful from what I've seen, is makeup companies using, like, food as their makeup inspiration. So I've
Wow.
seen, like, a makeup company that collaborated with Chipotle, and they had
Mm.
colors that were kind of Chipotle colored,
Well, that's
like
cool.
eyeshadow or whatever, and it's amazing how quickly it would sell out, but it's something you would never think to put together, like, ch
Yeah,
food and
it's cool
makeup.
to actually kinda do that. What I've always done, as an artist, like, if you take something and you mix it, right? You take a
Mhm.
punk aesthetic and you mix it with country. You take a punk aesthetic and mix it with fusion, jazz. Like, if you take 2 things, you would say, "Oh, take some classical music and mix it with, like, heavy metal." Well, that's actually not that different, and people might think it's like, "Oh, okay," but it's very aligned, and so when you
Mhm.
start to mix things, you get it's like a painter. They mix the colors to get different shades and different it's a style. We call it, like, sound painting. We mix
Mhm.
things and because it actually creates the new thing. Like you can stay within what you think is going to work, or you can kind of push it.
Mhm.
And mixing the colors of the sounds is the same kind of idea.
So I love that term. I'm gonna be finding ways to insert that into conversation, sound painting.
It's important. I mean, it actually goes back to George Martin and the Beatles. He mentioned it,
Mm.
and Jimi Hendrix mentioned it on Electric Ladyland. People asked him, like, "What are you doing? What are these sounds on Electric Ladyland?" Which is Jimi Hendrix like double album, had all these weird sounds. He can make a sound guitar sound like birds, oceans. He wasn't playing a synth. He got his guitar to sound like the ocean, to sound like
Wow.
birds, to sound like all these things, right? And he said, and people asked him, like a reporter for a music magazine, he's like, "What are you doing here?" He said, "Oh, it's a sound painting. I'm playing with the sound like colors." And then George Martin said it like about like Sergeant Pepper's, that they use the studio like a canvas, like Monet, that they could
That's so cool.
take these like the studio and layer the sound, use backward tape loops, use audience recordings, start to layer things that you couldn't do as a performance band. Like the Beatles and Hamburg, four guys, they can play what they can play. Once you go in the
Mhm.
studio, you can use tapes, you can overdub, you can do backward recording, you can do all kinds of things. You can start to make it beyond what you could physically play. And it becomes like a canvas. And that's where the sound painting idea comes from.
That
And
is
this,
so cool.
but you can take that analogy and use it for all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about mixing different companies, like different products into an ad, like having a combined effort from two different companies and may put it into the same marketing effort. Like you see a lot of video game companies actually go to musicians and put original songs into games. And as musicians, we actually make more commission if we have the song inside of a game than putting it on Spotify. We get a higher rate.
Yeah. Um, it's there's a actually, it's really weird. I have, friends who are musicians, and they create a lot of music that, yeah, it's much more successful sometimes going that route, or, having it in games, having it in TV shows
Ads,
or whatever.
ads and TV shows, doing a theme for a TV show,
Yeah.
doing commercials. There's so many more opportunities to do 30 seconds worth of work,
Yeah.
a minute worth of work, and getting it into an ad campaign, getting it
Mhm.
into a product, so doing the music that represents a brand new product or new ad. And these ads go up on inside of in malls, on radio. There's like a whole set of music that can go to like where you hear stuff in the mall and the music type of things.
Yep.
You can sell your music to that. You can sell your music for sync licensing, for TV, independent films, video games, anything that needs music. There's a lot more opportunities than trying to hit the top 10 list.
Exactly. And I think they're, well, stable's not the right word, but, um, in a lot of ways, they perform better over time.
Yeah, and if you get known in that market, you keep on getting people coming back to you.
Mhm.
Like if you can get your stuff placed into a game, then the game developers are gonna probably keep on putting you in their games because they
Exactly.
tend to do that. So it's like if you get placed in an independent film, then tons of independent film directors say, "Oh, I'm gonna go to this guy." So
Yeah.
once you get into these markets, you get a lot of repeat business.
Now, have you, because I know you said that you're a musician, have you, been in,
I've
like,
got some stuff that's on Twitch. I got a deal with BMI, and my like gamers and stuff can use my music, and I get a higher rate if they use my music on Twitch. So I got
okay,
a BMI contract that does that, and I've
awesome.
so there's all kinds of things you can do. You never you get opportunities.
And I think in so many aspects, in a lot of our professional careers, the limitation is just it's up to you. Like, if you,
You gotta think out the box.
yeah,
You
exactly.
gotta like a lot of times you gotta ask people. You talk to people. Like your Rolodex is so effective. Like people you've met, people you've talked to. I mean, even this podcast, I've talked to 1,000 people since 2016, and
Wow.
I get opportunities. I had opportunities to do stuff with collabs because of the podcast. People have come to me and asked me to do something because they heard I was a musician. I got a gig to do something, because and it wasn't, necessarily that wasn't the point of the podcast. But then
Right. Right.
it's like you get opportunities because you meet people.
The more you put yourself out there, the more you expose yourself to different knowledge, just different roles, different aspects. It just
Yeah.
opens up so many opportunities. I think it's dangerous to get tunnel vision in anything.
Yeah, it's just the whole marketplace. It's like a lot of times, like LinkedIn itself has gotten saturated as like a new kind of like influencer area.
I know.
And
It's
so it's like people were like, well, I thought it was supposed to be for like a job site. Now it's like Instagram.
yeah, I I really have mixed feelings on it. It's been really weird to open it up and now see so many
Like,
influencer like videos on
yeah,
it.
it's like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. And I'm like,
Yeah.
is that the point? And some people are saying I kind of need you to be the way you used to be because I'm trying to find a job.
Right, right. And and at the same time, how many of the videos have you actually walked? I don't go to LinkedIn to watch videos.
Well, that's not the point. Like, if I'm going to TikTok. Like,
Yeah,
if I want to see what's hip, TikTok is the place.
right,
That's the most hip place there is. And
right.
then there's, and they might get people get mad. It's like, oh, what about Instagram? What about this? It's like, well, okay, well, that's just my opinion. I'm a musician, but
Well,
that,
but I mean, you look at unfortunately, it also it is what it is. Yeah, Instagram is there, but Instagram in a lot of ways, Instagram started falling behind. And then, kind of back to that conversation about innovation, instead of innovating on their own and like, oh, we want to try this and oh, we should try this, they were looking at, okay, well, gosh, TikToks were really going off. Let's introduce reels and let's do the
yeah,
same
well, they kind of
thing.
cloned it instead of
Yeah,
being original, which
exactly.
is like the danger, like
Mhm.
in the music industry, like you get the monkeys because the
Yeah.
Beatles. Now
Yep.
the monkeys, they like, they're not the Fab Four, but they're
No,
actually good.
they're
But
good,
they were
but
but they're not the
they had
Beatles.
help. You
Not the
had
Be
the whole,
it's not that.
yeah, they had the magic of Hollywood helping them out
Yeah,
to
it's
get
a
it.
different it's like they're
Yeah,
trying to be like that, but it's not exactly that, and you kinda know. So
right.
you know there's like that's not a Lennon McCartney song.
Exactly.
That's a Neil Diamond song.
I I think it's really, really I always put it like an analogy of you're running a race. And if you're so busy looking at the competition to the side of you or behind you, you're not going to see any obstacles coming up in front of you. You're not going to be able to focus on just getting to the end line, getting to that success. You're going to be too busy looking at everything else and distracting yourself. And I feel like that's kind of what Instagram's been doing. And a lot of
Yeah.
the social medias.
Yeah,
I,
they're all kinda no, you want people to kinda do what's the new thing. 'Cause
mhm,
I like as a musician and a podcaster, I initially started the podcast talking to, like, independent and emerging singer-songwriters. So I've got my ear into all these underground places from, like,
mhm.
Australia, Netherlands, all everywhere, right? Even in Tokyo,
Oh,
Japan, I listen to all kinds of stuff. And, like, I like that's not the most popular channels. Like, I'm looking for stuff because I see where things come from, and I'm
mhm,
looking for the places where things percolate up. What a
right,
lot of people want is, like, I wanna know what the hit is, okay, well, listen to the top 20, but I'm
right,
listening to, like, the bottom 500 or 1,000, you
right.
know, of what the charts are. Is like and that's where a lot of the cool stuff is happening, and then eventually some of that stuff blows up. But,
Exactly.
like, a lot of times I've been, like, I've actually found something that eventually blew up because I kind of had a feeling that these
Mhm.
guys could blow up.
Well, and you've got an attuned ear. You've made you are an expert in that industry, in that knowledge. And so you're able to identify right away, oh, I see these characteristics that I know will lead it to
Gonna work.
success.
Yeah, it's like what you do in marketing. Like you have to know, like is this company got something that's really gonna be something you can help mold and push, right? So you have to have some discernment, right?
Exactly. Well, and even how am I going to communicate? Because what I've learned in marketing is what the employees think are the benefits of using that company's products or services isn't always what the consumer equates as
Yeah.
the benefits. And so it's having that ability to kind of live between both worlds.
To be able to
And
communicate so
yeah,
that so that the employees can kind of figure out what is their secret sauce.
exactly.
The
Exactly.
thing a lot of times a musician thinks this they have a song and they think the public's gonna like that song. Most of the time, the song the musician thinks the public's gonna like is not the song they like.
Exactly.
There's like all these other people around the musician that actually find like, and the musician will be sitting there it's like, "Well, that's not the song," and then well, that is the song.
Right.
It's like we don't even know like our own work what's gonna work. So we have to depend on a lot of times other people. Now we love the what we did, and
Right.
we might personally like we have a lot of feeling for it, but sometimes it's the song that we don't think is actually going to connect. It connects, and it's like 'cause we're got tunnel vision thinking on what we want. Like
Right. I was
let's
gonna
say
say, I
let's
think
employ.
sometimes we get too close. We're just too close. It's a labor of love. This is, the product of my blood, sweat, and tears or whatever. And it's hard to not have that tunnel vision, which is where it's great to have that team around you that can kind of help discern.
Yeah, and help a company figure out like this is what you guys are really good at. This
Hmm.
is the service the public wants, and like you think this is the service they want, but like this is what they want. So if you
Right.
can help somebody from making that mistake where they put the ET out and they
Well,
gotta bury them in the desert because nobody buys it.
exactly. And in the absence of that team, kind of bringing it back to AI, that's where AI can help. Like AI can sit and really analyze that kind of information and, oh, well, this is what I see. This is where I think
The
it would be
trend. So you
beneficial.
can run a really good analysis to see like this is where you could actually have an impact, like your service or product, you could actually have inroads and you have access to the data analytics that maybe only like the top tier companies had. Right now, you can actually get that level of data,
Exactly.
which makes you like really smart. When like suddenly, like I'm looking really smart because I got people making me look good.
My reports are much more fleshed out.
Yeah, because people must be really happy when they're like, wow, these insights are actually working. You know.
Right. Definitely. It's again, it's just there's a lot of benefits. It's very, very helpful.
So has there been like any kind of like I would say like a takeaway that people would not expect, like something that you found that was unexpected that you think would be a really good story to tell people, like something that you were working on and it had, I don't know, you can kind of you understand what I'm trying to get at.
Totally understand. And I don't know if this is kind of the answer that you're looking for, but it's been on my mind a lot lately. Is I see a lot of freedom, or I'm sorry, fear of failure,
Mm,
and I think it's very, very dangerous to have that fear of failure, because if you fear failure, you're never going to try. You're never
and yeah,
going to,
stay safe.
yeah,
Staying
and
safe is like you don't go
you
anywhere.
become, yeah, you become stagnant. And so there's a lot of times where, um, to be honest, being a guest on a podcast, I used to have very, very crippling stage fright. I
Mm,
couldn't even be on a conference call without choking up and being afraid to like even talk. It was absolutely horrible. And I kind of realized that that stage fright was holding me back.
mm.
There was so many things that I really wanted to do that I couldn't do because of it. And it came down to I didn't want to look like an idiot. I didn't want to, say the wrong thing. And all of those fears were really holding me back. And
Yeah, you weren't thinking about like what all the positive things that can happen.
Exactly.
People tend to focus on the pessimistic things like I'm gonna mess up. But what
Exactly.
if you don't mess up? What if you
And
actually get an opportunity? What if people like what you're saying, but you focus on like I'm gonna flub it up, I'm gonna stutter, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. So all the negatives come up and then they freak you out.
there's a Shel Silverstein poem called The What Ifs. And it talks about, last night while I lay thinking here, some what ifs crawled inside my ear. And it's all these, what if I do this? What if it goes? And it's all negative, negative, negative. And I think we allow that quite frequently. We let those what ifs in.
Yeah, bad self-talk. Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, so what? If I make a mistake on a podcast, if I say the wrong thing, oh well. I've gone and I've had that experience, and now I have that lesson. And now I learn, okay, next time I probably want to do it a little bit differently. It's, you know,
It's like rehearsal. Like you can't
yeah,
get to be a musician without playing some bad notes on,
exactly.
like all the bad notes that ticked everybody off that was around when you were
Right.
learning. Was like
Despite what our
eventually,
moms and our grandmas said, none of us came out and just stood up and started walking. Like,
yeah, it's just a
you
lot of
have to
work.
learn.
It's
Yeah,
like when you ride a bicycle, you know you're gonna fall, you're gonna scrape your knee, you're gonna do that, right? And you don't care because you want to ride the bike. That's the way it
exactly.
was. I'm a child of the '70s, and we didn't care
Right.
because I want to ride that Schwinn Gray Ghost, and
Yeah,
I kept on riding it, and I was scraping it up. I'm like, oh man, I scraped it up. I wanted this thing so bad, but it's like I had to learn to ride it, you know?
exactly. Exactly. And somehow we've turned into a generation or a group of people that we're so afraid of failure. It's become such a dirty word that we're not taking those chances.
All these
And
big CEOs, everybody follows that they have a lot of failures before they got where they got.
right, right. And we never highlight that. We
But
always
they
just
always
talk
want to
about,
act like they went
oh,
0 to 100.
yeah. It's you hear a lot too, like with the actors and actresses, all of a sudden they become like the hot item. Everybody was talking about them and they talk about, oh, they were an overnight success. And you always hear them like, no, I'm not an overnight success.
Lady
Like,
Gaga talks about it, how she was in New York, like being herself
mm-hmm,
without her makeup, without her stage presence, and it didn't work. And then she kind of did her reinvention and
right,
created Lady Gaga.
right.
Right? She tried to do it kind of like Bowie. Bowie back in the day came out as David Jones, kind of looked like a Beatle clone. Didn't work. When he came out and he had that Ziggy look, suddenly he's like, "Oh, he's a space guy. What's this?" But
Right.
that wasn't the Beatles. He was trying to kind of clone the Beatles. That
Mm-hmm,
didn't work because that was already done. Lennon, McCartney, Harrison, Ringo, they were already out there. Like he
right.
needed to differentiate, and he found something. He
And they
found that theatrical stuff he did.
they both made very bold choices and they took a risk and it paid off. Even if it had failed, it was a lesson. They change something, they manipulate, and then they move on and they're able to continue. But you've got to be willing to take some of those risks. Now, that doesn't mean you just go all in,
Yeah, yeah.
like Atari with ET and just, okay, everything's going to go on ET.
Everything's on ET.
You've got to be smart about it.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
you can't be afraid to take these risks and to take, steps towards improvement one way or another.
Right. There's always going to be haters, but the way I look at it is like law of attraction. Like whoever, when you put something out in the world, they're going to people that like, I feel that really speaks to me. And then there are going
Hmm.
to be people that don't. Like if you focus on the people that don't, then that's like the negative self-talk. Like
Right,
who you have to focus on is like this tribe of people that suddenly love what you're doing. And then you kind of go to that because the world is so open with the net. It's a double-edged sword. Like you get the people that'll come at you and hate you, right? But you got all these people coming at you and they love you.
right,
They just don't feel about the people like giving you the hate. Like forget about them. Go with the
right.
people giving you the love.
Exactly, exactly.
So like I think we always end up going, talking and we hit the hour mark faster than we ever imagined. We actually hit it. But we do have your LinkedIn.com and it's LinkedIn /in and then Deanna Read 1.
Yes.
and that will be fully clickable, and people will be able to connect with you on your LinkedIn, right?
Oh, yes, definitely. I always believe I connect with anybody that reaches out to me because there's always something I can learn from somebody else.
Yeah, that's why we do the podcast. We get to hear people's stories, and we learn a lot. You know, being a storyteller, the more people I can talk to, the better story writer I can be.
Exactly.
So I think, yeah,
Exactly.
it's a two-way street. It's always good to have that interaction. I want to thank you for being a guest on the Family Electric Ghost podcast. We're just live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and we'll be on a lot of platforms where you can listen to or watch a podcast by tomorrow. I want to thank you again for being a guest on the Family Electric Ghost podcast.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the talk and the time on the podcast.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.